Well, let's talk about Stephen Amell. Stephen Amell is the actor who portrays Oliver Queen / Green Arrow on the DC / CW universe's Arrowverse. And he recently was on a podcast with the aforementioned Michael Rosenbaum, who portrayed Lex Luthor on Smallville, and his podcast is called Inside of You, and it's basically just like a podcast that talks to, like, I guess I don't know who else he has on there, but I'm imagining different actors, actresses / production people who are involved in the Hollywood system. But it talks more about, like, sort of like their mental health, and I think because Michael Rosenbaum himself has sort of either struggled or dealt with some sort of mental health issues. But what was interesting about this particular podcast is that he had a bit of a panic attack on this particular episode, and so rather than talk about it, I'll just go ahead and play that exact episode.
You have yet to mourn this show, like being done with it. Do you think that's going to hit you when you least expect it, or do you think it's been so that you're pretty much done? You're good. You've been wanting this to end, even though you love it. You love the fans.
I do love the fans. I just don't want any responsibility right now, other than husband and father. I really don't.
Are you going to go see someone, or you're not going to do that?
I might. I think I might.
I wish you can go see this guy, Dr. Tesler, Rowan, Connecticut. This old Jewish guy.
Is it hot in here, or am I just sweating?
Hang on a second. You are sweating.
I am. I don't know why.
A lot of lights.
Hey, look, if you're cool with me sweating, I'll just sit here and sweat.
No.
Don't worry about it, man.
No, I'm hot too. I am hot.
Yeah.
Is it? It is hot. I noticed it, but I'm not sweating.
Honestly, man, I think I might be sick.
You want to throw up?
Yeah.
Well, come on. Use my bathroom.
I might have to cut this short, man. I'm not feeling well at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you leave if you want, but why don't first you drink some water? I'm going to get you some Tylenol.
No, I think I just got to go.
Do you want me to bring you home? Let me drive you home.
I actually just kind of want to walk. Do you mind?
Sure.
Yeah, I just need fresh air.
Dude, come on.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. So that was sort of the exchange that they had on the podcast for Inside of You. And then Amell eventually, like a couple of weeks later, comes back on the podcast to explain what the fuck happened, and that he had a full-blown panic attack, and that he went home and he was like sweating but cold as ice, and all that stuff that's associated with panic attacks. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on how you saw that whole exchange / dynamic.
Yeah, it's when listening to this and like hearing about this, like Kit Harington came to mind, right? When imagine playing a character, right? And we talked about this before we started recording. Like as an actor, it's kind of crazy in that like you're being somebody else, right? Like you're taking on the role of playing somebody else entirely, right? So imagine having to go to work every day and not be yourself, but be somebody else
6 or 7
for years, right? And having to see this person that you've become, knowing that it's coming to an end, but there's still just this mounting pressure of like what to do next. Both, do you continue to be this character? Do you, are you still doing like interviews and podcasts and all the things that happen after even the show ends as that character? Do you try and how do you continue to make this character live on for the fans? Despite the fact that, as he alluded to in the podcast, is that like, I'm a father and I'm a husband. Like these are the most important things to me. This other character that I play is Green Arrow guy is coming to an end, but like there's people who still want me to be that character. My wife and my children want me to just be a dad and a husband now. It's a lot of pressure. Yeah, it really is. In this moment, I think for him it just kind of all.
No, it all coalesced. So like
his worlds collided, right? And
before this, he talked about like that he was feeling a type of way after Arrow because he filmed obviously like the end of Arrow and Obviously we're not going to see that for like a few weeks, and maybe this week I think is the final episode of Green Arrow. But this was after he filmed it, but before it actually showed. So he was saying beforehand that like after it was over, like he just was like feeling a little lost, like a little like what the fuck,
Yeah.
And that he physically was fine, like his doctor told him physically he was fine, but he just still felt a little off, and so he went into this podcast knowing that he still felt off, but he was like fuck it, like he just kind of shrugged it off.
Yeah.
And so what I think overall the reason why I found this a really interesting story is just because we talk about mental health in the realm of I think we tend to look at it as in like it's like a normal people problem, like, right? Like, so for instance, like, hey, you're feeling stressed out because your family's dealing with some sort of issue or whatever, like, hey, you might need to talk to somebody. But really, like, I don't think we have enough sympathy for the actors and actresses, people who step into these other roles. Like, I think we it might have been before we started this particular podcast, but I was saying, like, I think actors and actresses, I think they're fucking crazy, right? Because like they have to portray somebody else like consistently, and almost like that person is them. And so imagine doing that, but then having to be like, oh, well, that show's over, so now I have to say completely goodbye to that character, that person who I felt like I've been.
I trained myself to become.
I've trained myself to become this person, and now I have to become.
Now I gotta go back to me. Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's like, you change the way you talk, you change the way you walk, you change your body language, your facial expressions, change the way you eat, change the way you're dressed, especially if you're like a really serious method actor, right?
Yeah.
You change everything, right?
Well, especially for a show, it's different for a movie. Like a movie, it's like, okay, that's
a movie,
a year
you do
of
it
your
for
life,
a period of time.
2 years of your life, maybe.
A show, you're doing this for years, right?
Yeah.
To where maybe even a lot of the character that you're playing kind of
is a lot of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you either put yourself into the character, or you may find things in this character that you take and apply to your real life.
Yeah.
And then to suddenly have that kind of, or to realize that there's an end coming to that, it can be stressful. So
it really can.
I think anxiety is a very real thing, and in this particular moment, it was captured on this podcast. But I applaud
Stephen Amell,
Michael Rosenbaum for the way he handled that, and like, because a lot of times, like,
I don't know, from the audio, it sounded like he was just like, "Hey, bro, you really gonna cut out like this?"
But like.
But I
think a lot of other people would have said would have tried to like question him. Like, what's going on?
No, you're okay.
Where's your head at? Like, tell me how you feel. Like, where's this coming from? But instead he like stepped away. You can tell he stepped away from his mic. He tried to give him some water. He tried to open up a window in a room or whatever, let some air in. He tried to like make him feel more comfortable. And then he offered to take him home because he clearly didn't want him to drive. Right.
Yeah.
I think he tried to do what a person in that situation
he
who doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Would do, like, what do you need me to do to make you feel comfortable? Because I don't know what I'm doing either. So I applaud him for that, and for not, instead of trying to dig for the story and like better content, it was just a real person.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's jump into the next story.